Hey, this is Charles Onyett with IGN, and I'm here with Anthony Gallegos.
Hello.
And we are looking at Borderlands 2. This is just the menu system for the game. You can see it's been upgraded for the better, I think.
Yeah, it's really quickly. You can switch it, put which weapon you want to be on your D-pad with ease. I mean, it's very simple now. Very easy to understand.
And here's the skill tree interface. This is the Siren class. So there was a Siren in the first Borderlands. There is a Siren in this game as well, the only returning class, in name at least. But this Siren plays completely differently from the Siren in the first game. You can see at the top of the 3 skill branches there, the little icon, that is the main action skill. It's called a phase lock for this Siren. So you don't do phase walk, which was the action skill of the Siren in the first game, which basically let you turn sort of ethereal and run through enemies and do damage and stuff like that. This one is a phase lock, and you'll see it in a little bit up here after we get past that giant dump truck. But what it does is it basically locks an enemy down in an energy bubble so that they can't move.
And it seems like a really good one that would work great with the Gunzerkers that we see here, because since it locks them down and makes them vulnerable to damage, then the Gunzerkers can just wail on them.
Yeah, it's great for crowd control, and this is a multiplayer game. So Borderlands is basically like, there's the phase lock right there, so it locks the enemy up in the air. So Borderlands is basically Diablo. It's pretty much the exact same idea. You run around, you kill a bunch of stuff. That stuff drops loot all over the place, which you can see right there. Loot explosion.
Oh my god, green weapon.
You get money, you get all sorts of different weapon types, and you get experience, and you level up, and you develop your character. So it's basically just Diablo as a first-person shooter. And the first game was a lot of fun, had some quirks, but the second game so far is looking pretty great. It looks really nice. And one of the things I want to point out is the weapon models you're seeing here, the firing animations, the reload animations, the type of ammo they shoot out. I mean, it's not like you have 6 weapons in this game. There are an insane amount of weapons in this game, and you can just see all the different types of weapon effects, like that reload animation with the huge magazine on the bottom there. That isn't the same for every, I'm assuming this is a shotgun, for every shotgun you pick up. It's totally different.
Right, we saw earlier that sniper rifle, she had actually broken the middle and she inserted a giant yellow cartridge into it. It's like every single one is very unique, very different.
Yeah, and you do get elemental effects with the weapons as well. So you get explosive weapons, which is basically just what it sounds like. Weapons have a chance to cause explosions. And then like that weapon right there, it had the little spinning disc in the side of it. Oh, there's a rocket launcher.
I mean, right there you also get to see how rapidly that they switch between weapons. That was 4 weapons in the span of a few seconds that they just wailed on this one enemy with.
Yeah, you basically have the 4 weapons kind of equipped that you can quick switch to at any time. And then you can open up your menu and switch other weapons into that rotation. But yeah, in terms of other elemental effects, you get like corrosive effects that are better at hitting enemies with armor. The electrical stuff can electrocute enemies and is really good for taking down shields. Yeah, because some enemies will, like the health bar there you can see is just health, but some enemies will actually have shields.
I was going to say, I like too on this enemy how we see like various weak points as well. Like you blasted away the crystals on the leg and then it opened up a vulnerable spot for you to whip.
And you can see right there actually the crystals just grew back. So you're constantly in a battle. And this is a larger version of that creature. Obviously there's a smaller one. But yeah, a lot of enemy types will have specific weak points that you can strike for massive damage. It's great. But it just adds another layer of depth to the gameplay. And in addition to that, switching between elemental types, because some enemies will resist fire, so you don't want to use fire weapons against them, so you can switch to something else. There's actually a new elemental type in this game called slag, that if you hit an enemy and they become sort of affected by the slag, they will take enhanced damage. So that's also good for group situations, because if you have a slag weapon and you coat enemies in slag, then your co-op partners can show up and do additional damage. So it's just another thing that helps out.
I love the ridiculousness of Borderlands. Right here you killed a giant enemy and for no explainable reason a giant chest comes out of his body. But why is it there? Because it's awesome.
Yeah.
It feels so rewarding to get a chest.
The world of Borderlands really doesn't make any sense, and that's absolutely fine. The first game took itself, at least in the base game, took itself a little too seriously, and then throughout the development, throughout the course of DLCs and stuff like that, the sense of humor has really come through, so it embraces its goofy nature. Also, Borderlands has amazing animations for treasure chest opening, which is a completely random detail, but when you find a treasure chest and you get that crazily detailed animation for the opening, it's really satisfying.
It feels very special.
It makes you really look forward to what's actually going to come out of there. In terms of what the Siren class can do, now they do have the phase lock skill, but that can be modified in a bunch of different ways. It can actually be modified, and I don't believe we see that in this footage. It could be modified so that it will actually turn enemies against each other. So that's one of the end tree skills for, I can't remember exactly which tree it is, but yeah, if you hit someone with a phase lock, it basically flips their AI so they become hostile to the things you're fighting.
That's awesome. Gives her more options than just locking guys down, being one note.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that developer Gearbox really wanted to do with Borderlands 2 is add more diversity to the skill trees. I mean, maybe not everyone shares this opinion, but I thought the Borderlands skill trees, like, they were cool. There were some bonuses in there that let you differentiate your character builds, but there wasn't a lot that made it feel all that much different. Like,
yeah, it seemed like there was like one good build, and the other ones were like, oh, those powers just seem kind of not all that worthwhile.
Yeah, I mean, so I think there was room to grow there, and it seems like from what we've seen in the character builds in this game, there's definitely more growth, and that's a good example. Another one is that phase lock bubble that gets thrown up when you activate the skill. One of the other entry sort of modifiers for that actually lets you drop the enemy from the air. So when they're in this state, you can slam them into the ground, and they'll do like a fire AoE all over the place.
Another thing I think we're getting good ideas. Not only did they expand like the powers to be more diverse, but everything's more diverse. The weapons are more diverse. The enemy types, like we've already seen like 8 different enemy types, and I think the first game had a lot of repeating enemy types.
Yeah, and this is just in one specific area, and you can see how these Thresher enemy types, this is an enemy you'll be fighting throughout the game. It has limbs all over the place. It's not just the core. And you can actually attack those limbs individually.
Oh my
Here
God.
you go. So this is a badass, an elite version, essentially. And you can see it's resisting some of the elemental damage there. Also note the ridiculous firing animation on this gun, which is just one of an insane amount of guns. You can see how it just slowly kind of opens up as you hold down the trigger. But yeah, you can see that you can attack the individual limbs in this case. So this is not...
Oh my gosh.
And they have special attacks, and you don't die necessarily. You can fight for your life. If something dies while you're down, you'll actually get a revive, which...
That's always been nice.
Partners.
If you kill something, you'll get to stand back up. Otherwise, your teammates can come and revive you.
Yeah, there you go. You got a second win. You got revive. But yeah, there's just so much going on in this game, and there's so much that's been improved since the first game that... I mean, this is... You know, my top 3 basically in terms of most anticipated games for 2012.
Yeah, I mean, if you're the type that has been looking forward to Diablo, well, after you tear through Diablo 20 times, by the time that goes around, September will be here, and then you can play Borderlands.
Yep, and for a lot more on Borderlands 2, you can check out IGN.com or IGN's YouTube page.